So just the data to make it a little bit simple for you, before we write y1 and y2, I want you to tell me exactly what do we have at the input of I50 here. What do we have, like, what's going on here? Inverse fast of Fourier transform, what does it take? So assume the input here, I want to give it a new variable, a new name, v1, the input to the I50, v1, the input, the net input to the I50 in the RF chain related to user 1, the input to the I50 block connected with antenna 1, and V2 is the input to the I50 connected to A2, the input to the I50. What's V1 then in this case? Can you tell me what's V1? V1, exactly, X1 precoded by P1 and X2 precoded by P3. So V1 is X1, P1 in the frequency domain. Before I50 we are in the frequency domain. Please notice this. Plus X2 precoded by P3. This is V1. Anybody can tell me what's V2, which is the input, the total net input, the total input to the I50 connected to A2. So in this case, V2 equal B2 multiplied by X2 plus P4 multiplied by X1. Excellent. This is V1. Why did we put this into a new variable, new name, to simplify the equations? So what do we get at Y1 now? Okay, we found V1 and V2. What do we get at, what do we get at Y1? What do we get? Yeah, tell me. H11 multiply H11 V1, which is the upper side, plus, and another signal H1, no, user 1, this U1, this Y1 gets this link and this link. Yes, is that right? So this is connected to H12. H12, from where, what's corresponding? This is V2, this is V1. So it's what? V2, excellent. V2. Plus what? Plus noise, N1. Generally, any receiver, once it receives anything, it will get some noise. And Y2, name it for me, Y2 has two arrows coming in, this one and this. H21, V1, coming from RF chain 1, from antenna 1, plus H22, V2, plus N2. Excellent. So we got these two equations. What do we do now? We substitute the values of V1 and V2 into these equations. If we give this equation, we give this equation name 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. We say substitute the values of V1 and V2, which is in equation 1 and 2, into 3 and 4. So what do we get here? What do we get? We get Y1 equal Y1. Yeah, can you
H11
H11
P1 X1 plus
P1
X1
X1
plus
P3 X2 plus H12 P2 X2 plus P4 X1 plus N1. Is that right? And Y2 equal H21 H21, H21, this is V1, yes? V1. So again, V1 x1 plus V3 x2 plus H22 multiplied by V2 x2 plus V4 x1 plus N2. Now my request from you is to tell me what Y1 is interested in and what Y2 is interested in. Y1 is basically interested in any signal that contains x1. Yeah? This one's x1, this one's x2. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Anything that's related to x1, put it in one term. Anything related to x2, put it in one term. So in this case, what do we have? Can you tell me the term of x1? So y1 is equal to, I will put x1 here, and then what do we have here? h11 v1 plus this h12 v4. Everybody's following? Plus, I will put x2 here, and then here, what do we have? h11
P3
v3 plus
H12 P2
h12 v2 plus noise. Can we do the same thing for y2? x2, let's put this x2 because this is the signal that y2 wants, and this x1 plus noise 2, noise 1. What's this?
H21
h2, h21 b3, h21 b3 plus
H22 P2
b2, and here
H21
h21
P1
exactly,
H22 P4
h22 b4. So these are the net equations. Now for user 1, this is related to user 1. Where it's data this term. And where is the interference to it? It's this term. And for user 2, where is its data? The data that he wants to decode, it's x2. And the interference term, it's x1. x1 as well. Where is R1 and R2? We don't have R1 and R2. What do we have instead? We have P1, P2, P3, P4, precoders, plus the noise. So what's the design goal here? How can I solve? How can I find the question here? What are the values of P1, P2, P3, P4 that can make this together? This term for user 1, 0. This term for user 2, 0. And I want, since there are precoders here also, I want to give them a value. I want to give them something, condition. I want them to be what? What's the ideal case here? Can I put them 0 here? Can I make these zeros? If I make them 0, you multiply by the data will become 0, everything, I will not get the data. So what's the ideal case? To put it equal to unity, 1. Yeah? If I can make this unity, it will become already equalized. And the same for this. I will make it what? Unity. Y. So we have 4 equations with 4 variables where we have the interference terms are equated to 0 and the fading terms, these are fading terms, are going to be equated to unity. So what do? You put these equations on top of each other. You put equation 1, equation 2, equation 3, equation 4. You put their values. These are all matrices. This matrix is diagonal matrix. And this precoder is expected to be diagonal as well. Because they are diagonal, their inverse is so easy. What's the inverse of this?